Out of the gates and ready to go. It's Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow. Today has the transfer portal ruined March Madness with NIL and everything else going on. Is traveling no longer a violation in college basketball? It's certainly not anymore in the NBA. And Bruce Pearl uses his platform to urge everyone to pay attention to the hostages being held by Hamas, and specifically an American. All of that and more straight ahead. YouTube, while you're here, like, comment, and subscribe. Chad, the transfer portal is crazy to begin with. But imagine preparing for the Sweet 16 or just being eliminated and now recruiting your roster while your guys are being recruited, and also trying to keep up with however many, it's more than hundreds, I'm assuming, that are in the transfer portal right now across college hoops, because it is wide open. It is the Wild Wild West. And, well, maybe it's led to what we've seen. The Power Four, they are the Sweet 16 power right now.
Yeah, well, the chance for the mid-major to pull off the big upset for so many years was you get guys who are overlooked, that have a chip on their shoulder, you develop those players, they stay with each other for 4 to 5 years, and by the time you get to year 3, 4, 5, you got a chance to beat some of those younger, great, talented teams and big-time programs that are stacked with one-and-done players or two-and-done players or whatever it may be. Well, now the problem is all those guys that would stay around for 4 or 5 years at IPFW or Valparaiso or wherever, they're just going to go to the big boy and get paid a ton of money to go finish their career at a power school. And that's why I think we're seeing this imbalance a bit more and more of teams from the power conferences are not getting challenged as much by the mid-majors. Now, there are mid-majors who have risen past the point of mid-majors. Drake, Gonzaga, St. Mary's. We can go down the list of programs that VCU even. I don't really consider them a mid-major type school, and they could hold on to a lot more of their talent. But for some of those other schools that are just competing to try to nip and tuck to get their way to the tournament, they're going to lose some of their best players to these power schools, and it'll continue happening.
And what's also really just died down is the reverse one and done, where you have a guy that's coming off the bench as the sixth man in the SEC or the Big Ten that will transfer into the Sun Belt or
The
Conference
mid-major.
USA to be the Conference Player of the Year. You know, that was happening too. And they go and dominate, and they take that team into the tournament, and you can pull the upset with a very good player that's leading the charge there. And I also the cap that's coming, I think, can play a factor in evening some of this out. But I think it ultimately helps, like, you know, the ACC and others to get back to where they were, or just, you know, level it out a bit. Not nearly as much as what we've seen from, you know, the mid-majors and the one-bid leagues, so to speak. But I'll be honest with you, Chad, I love the Sweet 16 right now. Like, I want to see close games. We didn't see that by and large on average. But, I mean, the matchups coming up on Thursday and Friday, yes. Like, I love this. I think we're getting, you know, the big powerhouse programs a weekend earlier than maybe we would in the typical tournament bracket. Dan Dockich will join us coming up. We'll discuss that with him.
Yeah, viewership was great all weekend, even with a lot of blowouts. So people are still watching, but people are watching in the first round especially, rooting for Cinderella, rooting for the buzzer beater, rooting for the big upset, rooting for the big boy to go down. When you get to Saturday and Sunday, I think that's when everyone starts to take a peek ahead, because to me, this has got to be the most fun time to be a college basketball player or coach, that if you're in the Sweet 16. Like, you get the week off, you get through the first weekend, and there's only 16 teams left to talk about, and to get back to a different venue, it's just so cool to think about that.
Go
for
back
those
to
teams.
campus.
Yeah.
And you're Kings.
Unless you're Alabama, which we'll get to later, who's going to completely skip campus because school doesn't matter anymore in college sports. But to have that opportunity is really, really cool. But we want to see Tennessee and Kentucky. We want to see Duke, Arizona. You know, we want to see these big-time matchups of big-time power programs once we get to the Thursday and Friday of the Sweet 16. And certainly Saturday and Sunday Elite Eight. Traditionally, those national semifinals rarely produce great games in the Final Four on that Saturday. Saturday and Sunday of the Elite Eight, those are absolute wars, typically, between big-time teams. I think we'll see that again this year. But it is a little bit disappointing to see the stat that the average margin of victory was close to or over 17 points per game, which is the biggest it's ever been since the tournament extended to 64 teams, then 68.
What we don't want to see is the traveling, Chad. 3 steps. I mean, look, watching it in real time, I didn't see the 3 steps originally. They show the replay of it and then just bypass 3 steps altogether. And, you've got the rules analysts and everyone coming on and saying that it was the right call, and, you got the carry and the possession of the ball. On the playground, that's a travel. That's a walk.
Like, if it quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck, right, it is a duck. Like, that's traveling. I get so exhausted hearing all these, like, when you see it. I see this all the time with guys who shift their pivot foot. Like, they change their pivot foot.
Yeah.
And, like, they'll just catch it if people are nonchalant and playing in the game, catch the ball out top, and they, like, start to move both feet before they put a dribble down. That's traveling. Show me in the rule book where that's allowed, to just get the ball, not put a dribble down, and start to move both feet before you dribble. Or shift both feet before. That's a travel. Taking 3 steps is a travel. I don't want to hear about the gather and
right.
But it just looked awkward. I will say, in real time, it looked like an obvious travel. And then because the basketball officiating committee on social media and everyone else has infected my brain so much, when I watch it slow down, I'm thinking, well, is it a travel? I'm second guessing. It looks less like a travel in slow-mo than it did when I'm watching the game live. It was a travel. Few officiating things I want to hit here that I have a big-time beef with over the weekend and throughout college basketball. That was a travel. I don't want to hear that they're not going to call a travel in that moment. That is absolutely the time to call the travel if it's a travel. You don't allow a game to be won with a guy picking up the ball and carrying it like a football player for 3 steps and then shooting it off the glass. No. Let's get away from this. Oh, it's a travel, but the refs aren't going to call it in that moment.
It's like Nerf ball.
Late in the game. No, if it's a foul, we'll ask Dan Dockich about this. I've heard him talk about it too. If it's a foul, call it. If it's a travel, call it. If it's any type of violation, call it. I mean, the officials had no problem calling a violation on a lane violation on a free throw in North Carolina to lose an ACC tournament game against Duke. And they should have. It was obvious, and you call it. You don't sit there and think, man, the kid just made a mental error late in the game. We can't call it that moment. His guy's taking the lead on that free throw. You can't call that. No, you absolutely can call that. Here's the other thing that I want to give officials leeway to actually do. Tell someone to screw off next time they ask for a review under 2 minutes if you are definitive and know you got the call right. We are wasting so much time. These games don't need to take 2 hours and 30 minutes to complete because we get to the last 2 minutes and every coach and team uses that moment when it's any dispute at all, even when it's not really a dispute, to do one of these. Hey, let's get our free timeout here. Everybody gather, get a breath. We'll go through it again. We're going to utilize the free timeout. I want one official. I will back the official. If they say, nope, I saw it right in front of me, clear as day, it is green ball, and we're going to play ball right here. We're not going to look at it again. And then when you look at it, we see the replay when we're watching the game quickly. You can see it just as quickly. See it, address it, either confirm it or not, and get back to action. Third thing on officials, quickly, no official deserves to be treated the way Danny Hurley treats officials. All right? I love Danny Hurley. I love the passion. The guy is way too over the top. It is nonstop with him and the officials at times where I think he's just manufacturing things to be mad at, that there are calls made in the game that are legitimate calls. Not all of them are targeting your team. So ease up a little bit. I don't know that anyone deserves to be treated the way he does consistently towards the officials in the game.
Yeah, I agree. Chad, he's treated so it's just so bad that he has the cameras on him all the time.
I know.
I wonder why. I mean, he's playing into the cameras on that.
Well, and first off, great job by the reporter who got the video of him and the audio of him, telling
I've got the credit here in just a second.
Yeah, telling Baylor to don't get effed like we did. Hopefully they don't F you like they did us, which is ridiculous. I didn't think that game was that poorly officiated.
Charlotte Sports Live.
Certainly not poorly officiated on behalf of UConn in that game. And then we may hit the video later too. I know I sent it. But yeah, for the sports information director of UConn to come out and threaten a reporter for taking a video of your guy screaming,
"I'll end you"
in the tunnel. Give me a break. Come on, man.
Well, that's what I mean. So
I love Danny Hurley and what he's built at UConn, but it was a bad look. Like, I can like a guy, and we can all like Danny Hurley or whatever.
Bobby
you can
Mullen
hate him.
is the director of communications.
Thank you.
He says the lasting. So he came out and was like, he told the reporter for Sports Live here that you need to take down the video that you tweeted because you were in an area that you weren't supposed to be in, and Hurley's MFing the officials by talking to the other team that's about to take the floor, and he's the communications director is trying to do this, saying that the lasting image of Coach Hurley leaving the court should have been his walking off the court arm in arm with seniors, overwhelmed with emotion. Instead, a reporter who was in an area he should not have been recorded on his cell phone a private comment.
Yeah, this guy's a jackass. It was not a private comment.
Yeah,
there's no private comment made screaming in a tunnel in the direction of an entire team and coaching staff with your team right there. And you're right. That should have been the lasting image. Your dumbass coach prevented that from happening.
Yeah.
Had he walked off the court arm in arm with his seniors, that would be the lasting image. Him getting choked up, talking about how much some of his seniors meant to him. That would have been the lasting image. You don't get to set the narrative and create the story.
Well,
this is not a fake news situation. It was on camera with him saying that. Like, you don't get to come back and say, no, the story should be this, not this. It would have been that if your coach didn't behave that way.
Yeah, so the story's both. But here's the thing, they far too often, the communications directors and the coaches do control the narrative here.
They do. And that's why they get very accustomed to threatening people.
Another example is with Mick Cronin, who, the reaction to his bitch ass talking about the poor, woe is me, I've got to, fly back cross country on an airline that doesn't have, comfortable seating. I mean, that's like, Cronin had, man, what a tournament of quotes.
He burned down Allegiant Airlines also in the process.
Mick Cronin, stop being a pussy. You do nothing but bitch and moan. You have it so bad. It must suck to travel and coach at your level. Making $4 million a year with a bonus structure that's about to pay you $2 million for just being hired, for being the coach. Your bank account's going to get another hit. Congrats on that. I mean that genuinely. But, being the coach at UCLA, go somewhere else if you don't like it. And had you not obtained the roster retention bonus that you have coming up in a couple of weeks, you'd have been paid $20 million in a buyout. So my bad for just not shedding a tear for you having to fly on something other than JetBlue. When it comes to all the tip-off times, the networks, ad sales, viewership, this is where Mick Cronin isn't allowed to be this petty. You're living the good life, man, answering questions from reporters who are likely going to be laid off by media companies, helping make self-important, arrogant coaches like you believe that they deserve the high life. Meanwhile, there's other coaches that maybe feel the same way, but don't go about it hating life the way you do. Here is Cronin discussing his poor travel arrangements. And he's not able to talk about next year or the players he has coming back. No. He's worried about getting a hot meal and boarding a flight that he doesn't want to board.
Do you start looking forward rather than backward?
Right now, guys, it's 12:40 a.m. and our season just ended. That's it. You're going to ask me about next year? Right now, my biggest concern is how bad the seats are on the Allegiant flight, on that terrible plane that we're going to have to fly home tomorrow.
The school bus.
The cheese, the plain version of the cheese.
Hang in there.
And is there any chance
Poor bastard.
that Doug got me some hot food, because I don't eat on game day, that I got something edible?
Oh, my gosh.
Not next year. Not right now, guys.
I mean, not a single. Did anyone laugh?
What an insufferable prick.
Did you?
And how about the media guy who's like, hang in there? I hope that was sarcasm for the media guy.
Well,
who
he
said
said
that
the
to
school
him.
bus. He's talking about Allegiant right there. So I think he's clearly covering the team and knows about. I mean, but again, this is not the first time, nor will be the last that he's complaining about something. But I'm just sitting there going, man, no one's laughing at this. It's just, I don't know. It bugs me, that guy. Meanwhile, there's Rick Barnes making $1 million more in base salary. And not that it matters, but it matters because, go buy a private charter if it's so bad for you. $1 million more in base salary. Here's Rick Barnes, who doesn't care what, when, where, how to get to the next destination.
Good, hard-fought win. Again, great job defensively. Other than the 18 turnovers, man. I mean, defensively, stuck to the game plan. We did what we needed to do. What was the rebound margin?
10.
10?
Plus.
We're plus 10.
Plus 10.
Plus 10. That's big, man. That's big. That's really good. So we came here this weekend to get it done. You got it done. All right, got it done. Now we got to go back home, get some rest. Got another invitational somewhere. I don't even know where it is. I didn't even look. Indy. All right, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter where it is. All right. A lot of good things that happen again. But you know what? We got to keep going. We got to get better. Right? Great job, though. Great job.
Love it.
That's a very different way to handle business.
Well, I mean,
and talk about handling business.
Well, both guys are being genuine. It's just one guy is, likable. Another example. After losing to Michigan earlier this year, here is Mick Cronin calling out his players for being soft. And just know it's the same guy who, can't fly cross country because his ass is going to be sore.
But we don't play. We're soft. So don't tell me you want to win.
I mean, what a pussy.
Just don't tell me you want to win.
I mean,
so don't tell me you want to win. It's crazy, and it's every day. I'm tired of it. It's every day. I have the most energy of anybody at practice every day.
I'm the best looking. I'm the
smartest. I'm the tallest.
I'm upset with everybody in that locker room. My assistant coaches and my players. I mean, I don't need to do anything else. I almost got 500 wins. I'm only 53.
Cool, man. Peace out. I mean,
it's a joke. It's a joke. But yet I come in and I have more passion and energy and pride than everybody in. That's the problem. So what the truth of it is, Ben,
better than
it's
you
really
all.
Hard to coach people that are delusional.
Listen to this.
The hungry dog gets the bone.
Why would you want to play for
this guy? We got guys that think they're way better than they are. They're nice kids. They're completely delusional about who they are.
But, Speaking of delusional, also, why would anyone want to go play with them? This is what's so funny about the money.
Well,
they're spending money in the transfer portal clearly and in NIL, but I'm thinking to myself, you are bemoaning the money of the Allegiant Air flight home and all of this, but yet it is the money, first off, that compensates you very well personally and your staff, and also it's the money that's bringing in players to want to play for your personality. I mean, which again to me seems quite insufferable.
I don't know if the man could be happy. Please, sit back, make sure your seatbelt is securely fastened, and prepare for takeoff. And don't be a pussy. Stop being a pussy.
I hope they have a hot meal for me.
Yeah, because he doesn't eat on game day.
Because I don't eat on game day.
He wants his communications director to go get a hot meal for him.
Oh my gosh!
I know, man. Imagine working with him.
I would be looking for a way out constantly if I were on his staff.
Yeah.
It's just very, very different. I'm watching the game on Saturday night, and I'm thinking to myself, Rick Barnes and Zakai Ziegler and this Tennessee team, they can't lose. About halftime, I'm like, there's no way they're going to lose to that guy. Because I thought back to that press conference we just watched, and I'm thinking they can't lose to a group of guys that's talked about publicly the way Mick Cronin talked about his group. I just don't see those guys rallying to the point where they're going to knock off this Tennessee team. Maybe in another year, maybe if they're a little bit more talented, that happens. But there is some karma left out there, and I'm thinking, not this team. They're not going down to this group led by that man.
And it's the job that Barnes could have had, right?
The reason that Mick Cronin's at UCLA is because Rick Barnes turned them down. After the 2019 season, he nearly bolted for UCLA and decided to re-up at Tennessee.
Meanwhile,
and that's when Mick Cronin took the job.
There's Bruce Pearl, who uses the platform behind the mic to advocate for this.
But for me, I believe it was God's plan to give us this success beyond what we deserve, to give us this platform, to give me an opportunity to just start this press conference really briefly and remind the world that Edan Alexander is still held hostage in Gaza right now. An American held hostage. And there aren't enough people in this country that know his name. So I asked the players if it was okay if I started out this press conference and just called out the name of an American. Bring the hostages home.
Love that.
Yeah. Very well
done.
handled. If you're going to make any type of political world statement at a sporting event, to me, that's kind of how you handle it and how you do it. Even to the point where he's saying, I asked my players, because this is their moment too, if it's okay if I use this platform to talk about this. I thought that was very, very cool of Bruce Pearl.
Yeah, agreed.
Well done.